Welcome Internet, this is Josh. Welcome to our Stoa. This is going to be a quick product review over 3 things we bought on Amazon to help secure our front door. We got a peephole, a kick plate, and a one-sided deadbolt. That's kind of helped get us some situational awareness and some target hardening on that front door. I'm going to link all the descriptions in the comments below or in the description below, and let's get started. The very first thing that we want to start off with is a good solid door. I was very lucky my house came pre-installed with one. I managed to pick this. The first thing that we installed was a peephole. This had a 220 degree field of view. For 13 bucks, this was pretty hard to beat with the solid brass construction. And it was pretty nice when it actually came in the packaging. I was really happy with how this came in. Very first thing you kind of want to do is measure this out for the shortest person in your household. For me, it was my wife. You might have smaller kids that might need to use this just to try to figure out who's at the front door. I have a Ring camera, but in the off chance that the internet goes out, this kind of still allows me to see who's on the other side of this door. Always measure twice, cut once, something my dad taught me and something I live by now. Try to find some reference points, and like this, use a ruler to just make sure that you're centered on the door. When you're having to drill a hole, I was using a hole saw, and the hole saw has a pretty thick bit in the center of it. So I used the smallest diameter drill bit that I had to create kind of like a pilot hole for this hole saw, and then I incrementally went up in size as I went. You can be pretty liberal with the amount of force that you kind of push on this. Again, I have a pretty cheap Craftsman drill, and it was able to kind of survive all of the abuse I did for it on this project. Just like I said, go up in small increments at a time. That's going to be for any of the holes that you're drilling for any project. Again, it's very easy to take away material. It is very, very hard, if not impossible, to add material. Save yourself some time and headache, and go ahead and go from smaller to larger as you go forward. Eventually, I used the hole saw, and I had to drill in through both sides because my door was pretty thick, and I thought it would kind of bridge the gap between how big this peephole was and my door, and it turns out that I wasn't. But fear not. My Stoic mindset kicked in, and I just simply bought some 1 1/4 inch neoprene washers. I used the actual peephole as a guide, and I traced a quick circle around it with a pencil. I used a box cutter to kind of follow that traced line, and then had to do some fitting onto the peephole itself. Obviously, I just try to make sure that all of these things were actually sliding on, and then I actually had to remove some material around the bevel of both the inside and the outside of the peephole to make sure that they fit pretty securely on there, and then I didn't have a bunch of junk kind of hanging off. This was more of just me being a perfectionist about it. I ended up using 5 of them, 3 on the inside, 3 on the outside, and it turned out great. I was actually really happy with this. I used some plumber's tape to secure the threads, and that thing's not going anywhere. I really liked the way this portion of the project turned out. Was really rock solid, and the wife was really happy with it. The next thing we were going to install was the Door Armor Max Complete Door Reinforcement Set. Again, link's going to be in the description. It was 89 bucks. It was Prime eligible, and this was pretty affordable for what we ended up getting at the end of the day. The kick plate comes pre-cut so that your deadbolts and your actual door latch can go into these preset holes. Since I already had 2 in the door, I went ahead and lined those up, and then I made sure I knew where my 3rd deadbolt was going to go. This is a lot of just kind of following the instructions. Same thing, use a punch, mark your holes, and then pre-drill all your holes before you throw screws. Here's a montage. The kick plate went on just as easy as the instructions said it would. They come with really nice 3-inch screws and the drill bit that corresponds with those screws. It went on really, really easily, and I couldn't have been happier with the way that this portion of the project turned out as well. Always make sure and test it just to make sure that your door is still functioning the way it's supposed to. It's easier to fix it now than it would be down the road. These door shields are pretty self-explanatory. Just follow the same instructions like you did for the kick plate. Just make sure you pre-drill your holes before you drive your screws in. The fit and finish on these were really, really nice. They went on super easy. Again, always test fit your stuff before they go on. It does a really good job of reinforcing your door at the deadbolt itself. The next thing we ended up installing was the deadbolt. We did this before the plate for the hinge because we knew this was going to take a lot of time to do some hand fitting, and I wanted to make sure I had this on before I went to sleep that night. So it does come with a paper guide. Use that paper guide, and it'll kind of tell you, depending on the thickness of your door, where these holes need to end up being for everything to line up correctly. Again, start small, go large. You can always take more material away. You can't add material. Once your holes are drilled, and again, you follow the guide to go do that, you can kind of see where the hole is going to meet up with the door frame itself. Again, the kick plate already had a space allotted for that latch to kind of go through, and then you're going to have to use a hand file to make sure that you get the fitment right on this. This took me almost an hour and a half to do the right way, and it was kind of a pain in the ass, if I can be 100% honest. But I was really happy with the result at the end, and I was able to really kind of exercise my Stoic mindset to ensure that I did this the correct way. And we ended up adding the last little door shield on there, and then we did some test fitting, and it was perfect. I really couldn't have been happier with how that turned out. It did take a lot of work. That last portion of it, if you're not super handy, I probably wouldn't end up doing. But for those of you that are, kind of carry on. The last thing we ended up adding was the hinge shield. We do end up replacing 2 of the center screws for the hinge shield with 2 of them that are provided on each hinge with the kit itself. Again, it's going to be more screwing, more drilling, and then you'll end up with 2 of these hinge plates that kind of reinforce your hinge as well as your door frame from breaking. And honestly, the whole kit really came together after that. The end result was really aesthetic. The wife liked it, and I was happy because my stove was more secure. I really think that at the very minimum, the peephole and the Amex door armor was really more than I could have asked for, and is a solid addition to, I don't care if it's an apartment, your condo, or your home. If your lease or your rental agreement allows you to do it, I would highly recommend it. And as far as the door latch or the extra deadbolt, for anybody that's handy, go get it, man. I feel good knowing that at least I have, if everybody's inside that needs to be inside, I can have something that's analog that can't be possibly defeated or tripped from the outside without me knowing about it. For someone to have to kind of get through that thing, they're going to have to really put a lot of effort into it. I really appreciate you guys' time. I hope you guys enjoyed our review. And until next time, stay stoic, bros.